This is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of anyone or any entity associated with this broadcast. This episode, the good, the bad, and the ugly of election 2020. Now, this is my first new episode back after dealing with a long illness, and it could not have come at a better time. We are in perhaps the wildest election that I, in my 59 years, have ever witnessed, okay? Because of COVID-19 and quite a few of the machinations of the Trump administration, we are still, as of this recording, waiting for the results of the presidential election. So here's how this breaks down. So try to keep up. Democrats have been pushing for early voting, mail-in voting, absentee ballot voting. The Republicans, more specifically Donald Trump, have been pushing for in-person voting. The whole time, Trump and his cronies have been crying foul, spreading lies and misinformation about widespread voter fraud. As of this recording, nothing has been found. Secretaries of State have spoken up. You've even had some Republicans like Mitch McConnell, who is the pain in the butt of Kentucky, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, even speaking up saying that the process must continue. Trump has tried to stop votes from being counted in certain areas and wanted to keep votes being counted in other areas. So this whole thing has been a clown show from Jump Street, okay? So as of this recording, and everything is fluid, so anything that I say right now could very well have changed by the time you hear this. We've got 5 states that are still out: Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada. Georgia is headed for a recount because the vote totals are so close. Plus, they've got 2 Senate runoff elections. What does that mean? In the bid for the Democrats to take over the Senate, right now, as of this recording, Republicans have retained control. 2 Senate seats. If the Democrats can gain those 2 Senate seats, at the very best, there will be a 1-seat majority or a tie, in which case the president of the Senate, which would be the Speaker of the House, will have the decision in any ties that come up at the Senate, okay? What that also means, as of right now, Mitch McConnell from Kentucky is still the majority leader. However, if the Democrats can get control of the Senate, he becomes the minority leader, and then all of that legislation that he's just let sit on his desk actually gets handled. Now, here are the approaches that the Republicans and Democrats are taking. And as the votes continue, a lot of people on the Republican side are kind of looking forward to a Biden administration because at his very core, for the last 47 years, with the exception of the 8 years he spent as vice president, Joe Biden has been a U.S. senator. He's got good relationships with Republicans and Democrats. He's seen as a centrist, and if you've watched his campaign, he's rather distanced himself from the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Mitch McConnell has openly said that he is looking forward to working with Joe Biden. One of the big packages they want to get done is an infrastructure deal. They also want to get a COVID relief package done. Right now, the only thing standing in the way are the election results and Donald Trump. Now, for Trump's part, this dude is just stuck on stupid. In addition to the lies that he's telling about widespread voter fraud, he's been saying that if he happens to lose the election, he is going to not leave peacefully, and he's going to try to get it tied up in the courts. So he's had several court cases in several states already rejected because he's got no legal ground to stand on to stop the counting of the votes or to keep anything else from happening. So he's already done there. Now, here's where everything gets really, really tricky. This is how everything is shaking out so far. In Pennsylvania, we have a few outstanding mail-in ballots that have yet to be counted. And the Secretary of State is being deliberately slow about getting those votes counted. Same thing's happening in Georgia. Same thing is happening in Nevada and in Arizona. Now, the interesting thing about Pennsylvania, and which is why, again, this could be dated information by the time you hear this, everybody is paying special attention to Pennsylvania because that is the one state that has 20 electoral college votes. As of this recording, Joe Biden has 253 votes. If he wins Pennsylvania, it's a wrap. Joe Biden will be president-elect. If he does not, he still has a good chance to win anyway with the other states. So here's what's happening, and here's the trend that we've had experts really taking a deep dive into, okay? So while Trump has been urging walk-in voting, same-day voting, Democrats, again, like I pointed out a few minutes ago, have encouraged early voting, mail-in voting. What's happening in Pennsylvania especially, and this trend has yet to be broken, all of the mail-in votes, 60 to 70% of them, are going to Joe Biden. And in the districts that are still left, they're one, heavily Democratic, and two, high-density black population areas. So places like Pittsburgh, Philly, heavy black populations, all leaning Democrat. So we're watching Pennsylvania like a hawk. Now, let's go to Georgia. Oh, boy. Georgia announced that there was going to be a recount because the vote totals were so close. Again, HDBAs, high-density black areas, have yet to be counted. So they're still counting those votes. Again, you've got two senatorial runoffs because each of the combatants had less than 50% of the vote. So there's a good chance that in January, when Georgians are going to be voting again, that they can send two Democratic senators to Washington, which means a one-seat majority in the U.S. Senate. So you've got that. Now, in Arizona and Nevada, as we look at Nevada, they're looking at Clark County, Mariposa County, or Las Vegas, and the southern border of the state. You've got a huge Mexican Latino population voting Democratic. Now, there are some votes that Donald Trump is getting from that area. However, not enough to make a major difference. In Arizona, the story is a little different. Trump is tending to do a little better with the mail-in vote than he is with the actual same-day vote. So it's a mixed bag there. There's a chance that Biden could not get Arizona, but that wouldn't make too much of a difference as far as his total electoral college vote count, okay? I know this is a lot of stuff to take in. And again, I have to say this, that by the time you hear this, this information is going to be somewhat dated. It could be a whole new ball game by the time this actually airs. So please forgive me. I'm giving you as much of the information as I get it. And there are some other anomalies that we need to take a look at. One, if you look at what happened in Florida, Miami-Dade County especially, Trump got a huge, huge portion of the Cuban vote. And that is something that is being discussed among the Latin community big time. Older Cubans tended to vote for Trump. Younger Cubans voted for Biden. In parts of Texas, border towns of Texas, Trump got a rather significant size of the Mexican vote there as well. And it broke down along age lines. Younger Latinos voted for Biden. Older Mexicans voted for Trump. Here's the crazy thing that we're still taking a look at, trying to analyze, okay? Donald Trump managed to get 20% of the black male vote. Let me say that again. Donald Trump managed to get 20% of the black male vote. This does not bode well for the Democratic Party. And it's an issue that the Democrats have long had with black men and voting. As a matter of fact, we're going to break that down right after this.
This is Markland Media.
Hit it!
One of the biggest accomplishments we've had over the past year is the continued growth of our podcast, Gunshots Straight from the Hip. If you haven't heard it, you can check it out now on our website at markgunmedia.com or on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or the TuneIn Radio app. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Past episodes are available for download right now. Each episode is written and produced from a perspective not heard enough in this medium, the Black perspective. However, Gunshot Straight from the Hip is not limited to a Black audience. Anyone can get something out of it. We tackle social and political issues, sometimes some slice of life stuff, in a way that's very compelling and unlike any other podcast on the market right now. With my experience as an award-winning audio producer and a reputation for being rather outspoken, Gunshots Straight from the Hip is something you won't want to miss. Over the next year, we want to add more subscribers with a goal of 1,000 new subscribers every month. If you haven't joined us yet, go to our website, markgunmedia.com, and hit the podcast link. You could also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're already with us, thank you. We just ask that you turn your friends and family on to us. Remember, we have a goal of 1,000 new subscribers every month, and we can't do it without your support. That's Gunshots Straight from the Hip, available right now at markgunmedia.com, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or the TuneIn Radio app. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.
Mark Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.
For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com. Welcome back to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I am Mark Gunn. This episode, Election 2020, the good, the bad, and the ugly. In the last segment, I told you that Donald Trump managed to get 20% of the black male vote. Okay? 20%. Now, this speaks to something that I talked about years ago as far as the Democratic Party is concerned. Peep this. You've heard all election season for the last couple of years, okay, how black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party. If things play out the way they're supposed to, with all of the votes that are still out that I told you about last segment, that is going to prove again to be true. Because it'll be the efforts of people like Stacey Abrams in Georgia and other black women and representatives in grassroots groups that will put Joe Biden in the White House. Now, here's the problem. There's a very serious disconnect between the Democratic Party and black men. Okay? People like Roland Martin even talked about this last year. The DNC and a lot of local Democratic parties are not talking to the brothers. You're not talking to us. You are assuming that the majority of us are going to follow the voting patterns of the women in our lives. While that may be true to a certain extent, you're still ignoring the needs of black men and your black male constituents. This is why Donald Trump was able to get 20% of black folks, black men, to vote for them. And there was a small percentage of black women that voted for him, too. One of the reasons they bought into this phony conservative argument that Trump has about how religious he is. All right, you remember that stunt show he pulled in front of the church in Washington, D.C., right? Where he held up the Bible upside down. Some of you bought into that load of crap. And again, the DNC, the Democratic Party, is not addressing the issues and the needs of black men. Kanye West, Ice Cube, 50 Cent. Why are these brothers dealing with Donald Trump? 50 said it was because of taxes. Okay, I get it. The largest tax boondoggle in history was laid out by Trump a few years ago where, we were supposed to get a lot of money back on our taxes, but it only benefited the 1%. Right. So some of them fell for that hook, line, and sinker. You were suckers. So here's where the Democratic Party is also going to be in trouble. as it stands right now, as of this recording, we're going to have a divided Congress, okay? Republicans will maintain control of the Senate. That's despite, just depending on how the two runoff races come in January. And the Democrats will barely keep control of the House. As a matter of fact, they lost seats. Here's the thing. With everything this president and his administration has done, everything from all the racial dog whistle blowing, the failed economy, the way that they mishandled COVID, the bad trade deals that caused our farmers to suffer, all the stupid mistakes, self-inflicted gunshot wounds that Donald Trump and his administration fell for, you fell for it. Come on. This election was supposed to be a clean sweep for Democrats, okay? All they needed was 4 seats in the Senate to get control. Right now, they have a net gain of 1. And they lost seats in the House that they've controlled forever. You know what that means? It means that the Democratic Party, on a national level, needs to rethink its drink. It is woefully out of touch with the needs of black people. And it's woefully out of touch with the needs of most Americans. All right, so you heard folks like AOC and some of the younger Democrats, right? Talking about the Green New Deal, talking about defunding the police and all this other stuff, okay? All in the middle of this racial reckoning that we're having in this country. Fine. Good. Wrong message. The DNC has had a problem forever in its messaging. And as a marketing professional, it is absolutely disgusting, and it's absolutely it's insulting the way that the Democratic brand is. So as long as we still have the leadership that we have at the top, Pelosi, Schumer, folks that really need to be shown the door, and as long as we have a ultra progressive wing of the party that is still making the most noise, Democrats aren't going to be able to do anything. Nothing. Squat. The only saving grace is that you've got a presidential candidate that is running as a centrist. He's been able to distance himself from the defunding the police talk, okay? Now, one of the mistakes that the DNC made in this conversation about defunding the police is that they failed to clearly articulate what that actually meant. Now, smart people like you and I knew that, no, they didn't want to totally defund the police. What they needed to do was just reallocate some of the funds for social service agencies and the way that policing is done. For instance, if you're dealing with a domestic violence issue, you need to have a marriage counselor or some sort of counselor to accompany a police officer instead of sending in your Gestapo SWAT teams to handle the problem. Mental health issues, the same way. Defunding the police, which is a bad label to begin with, just meant a reallocation of funds so that the police aren't leaned on as heavily as they are to handle situations that they've got no business handling. The Democratic Party screwed that up in their messaging. They did not have a single cohesive message. They talked about the Green New Deal. Fine. They talked about defunding the police. Fine. They talked about anything and everything except getting this president, who is corrupt as all hell, out of office. Okay? That's where the DNC screwed up. And what's happening? They got shellacked in the down ballot races. Here in Kentucky, Amy McGrath, attractive on paper, mother, fighter pilot, served in the armed forces. On paper, she's a great candidate. And they poured something like $9 million into her campaign from outside of the Commonwealth. What happens? Mitch McConnell has a 7th term. Why? Because the Democrats are always putting up weak candidates. I said it from Jump Street. As attractive as Amy McGrath was on paper, she was simply not the one to take on Mitch McConnell. They had a star in Charles Booker, and they screwed that up because they backed the wrong horse. And frankly, Booker got into the campaign a little too late. So Pelosi and the gang in Washington, D.C. poured in all this money on a candidate that they knew could not win. As badly as Mitch McConnell has been for the Commonwealth of Kentucky, one of the absolute worst rated senators to ever serve, he is back in D.C. for a 7th term. And I lay that at the feet of the Democratic Party. Quit putting up weak candidates. Good night. All right, so that's one of the other problems that you have. So, say Biden gets in, we've got a divided Congress. The worst nightmare is that Mitch McConnell retains his position as the majority leader, okay? Now, one saving grace is that McConnell, like I said earlier, has expressed interest in working with Biden on some significant legislation. We will have to wait and see if that actually pans out, okay? The other problem that you're going to have is that any legislation that the progressive wing of the party tries to pass is going to end up on McConnell's desk, nothing being done, because it's too, quote, radical. It's not centrist enough. So the Democratic Party has to rein itself in. It has to come up with a single cohesive message, a single cohesive platform. What kind of party are you going to be? Are you going to be center left or are you going to be far left? If you're going to be far left, don't expect anything to happen for you this term. Okay? It's just not going to happen. The DNC has a bad habit of, again, putting up weak candidates and not having a single cohesive message that voters can get behind. What should have been, and I said this before, what should have been a landslide in a lot of these senatorial races ended up being a shellacking. Ted Cruz should not have been reelected. Mitch McConnell should not have been reelected. There should be 4 to 5 more Senate seats that the Democrats have hold of, but because of your own ineptitude, you don't have them. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? Coming up, white America, you've got a real serious problem. How is it that Donald Trump, as bad as he is, can get 50% of the vote and that this race is as tight as it is? Your problem? I'll tell you about in just a minute. If you're an advertiser, one of the most important things about getting your message out is actually standing out from the rest of the crowd. If you're listening to this program right now, this is where you'd hear your commercial. As an exclusive sponsor of Gunshots Straight from the Hip, your commercial is professionally produced and gets a longer shelf life based on your needs. Gunshots Straight from the Hip is a unique and compelling program unlike anything else in the marketplace. Episodes are available for download on iTunes, TuneIn, and MarkGunMedia.com. And depending on how you tailor your message, the potential for new and repeat customers is that much greater. Best of all, it's extremely cost-effective. If you'd like more information on how you can be a sponsor of this broadcast, call Mark Gun Media Inc. at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Or log on to markgunmedia.com. For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com. Welcome back to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm Mark Gunn, and this episode, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly of election 2020. As I said at the onset, a lot of this information could be old hat by the time you actually hear this because the vote counts are still going on. We don't know exactly what's going on just yet. The eyes of the nation are on Pennsylvania because that is the station, or that is the state that has 20, or that is the Commonwealth that has 20 electoral college votes that could actually put Biden in the White House. Georgia, they're headed for a couple of runoffs with 2 senatorial candidates and a possible recount. And we're still waiting to hear from North Carolina, which won't be till sometime in January, Arizona, and Nevada. Now, before the last break, I said this, and I mean this with everything in me. White America, you have a serious problem. As racist, as xenophobic, as homophobic, and it's just one of the dumbest, absolute dumbest people to ever work in the White House, Donald J. Trump, more than 50% of you voted for him anyway. You voted against your best interest. You saw your paychecks go. You saw friends and family die of COVID, gone, because of his ineptitude and the lies and the crap that they fooled you with. You watched too much Fox News and they bought into it. And the problem is, you have no problem with his racism or his xenophobia. This is why you're in the shape that you're in now. If America wasn't a racist country, technologically speaking, we would be 20 years ahead of where we are now. If Donald Trump wasn't so stupid, he would have left the pandemic team that President Obama put in place, and we would have a solution to COVID right now. But no, just yesterday, Friday, as of this recording, 100,000 new cases of COVID. More and more people are dying because of his stupidity and, in turn, your stupidity. Yes, I've seen some of you anti-maskers. I've seen some of you Trump supporters on the streets. You are dumb as hell. There's no other way to say it. Your need for white supremacy outweighs your common sense, outweighs your need for self-preservation. As long as those darkies don't get anything, I'm cool. That is your mindset. And even if you say to yourself, well, I don't think that way, I just think Trump has sound economic policies, that's a load of crap, and you and I both know it. Look at the economy right now. Look at the economy that he inherited. All Trump had to do was not screw things up. But the first thing he did was that multi-billion-dollar tax cut that you got very little of, but his rich friends got the majority of. Did they put that money back into employees? No. What they did with that money is they put it into stock options. They bought back stock for their companies. Okay? You didn't get squat. But hey, you're white. Trump's white. He speaks for you. No, he does not. He cannot stand the poor ground that you walk on, but you are so stupid that you buy into it. I don't get it. I don't get it. What is so star-spangled awesome about being white in America? To the fact that you vote for a man who is screwing you over on a daily basis and you're too stupid to realize it. You better pray to whatever God that you pray to, that this election turns out in the way that it needs to turn out, that Donald John Trump is out of the White House, and that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris spend the next 4 years undoing all of the crap that he's done. We've got international relationships to repair. We've got an economy to repair. We've got a pandemic that we need to get under control. And the last thing we need is the village idiot back in the White House holding up progress. Oh, progress, progressive, liberal, libtard. Oh! Your stupidity is so maddening, I can't stand it. I simply can't stand it. So this is your moment of reckoning. You've seen all the protests against police violence, racial injustice, social injustice going on. And you're throwing a hissy fit, talking about your right not to wear a mask, your right to be, your right to be an American, and, your right to think the way that you want to think. Go ahead. Think that way. And you're going to run the risk of two things happening. You're going to run up against the wrong person one day, white or black, who's going to knock your butt in the dirt, and you're going to wonder why. And two, if, and this is a big if, over the next 4 years, if Biden gets into the White House, that we're able to come together with some sort of recovery, if we're able to reestablish some semblance of our standing in this world, you're going to be left behind. This is the way you want it. This is the way you've always wanted it. Think about your own history. In the history of this country, when has white America ever sincerely wanted the best for the rest of its citizens? When has white America ever sincerely thought that racism was not a zero-sum game? If those black people, if those brown people get more rights, I'm going to lose something. That is your own stupidity. Get out of the way of your own whiteness and join the rest of us in trying to put this country back together. My God, you can't go through life being this damn stupid. You simply can't. Now, like I said, the results of the election could very well be in play by the time you hear this. But the thing is, no matter how you feel about it, no matter how I feel about it, change is coming to America one way or the other. We're either going to try to put back the semblance of what this country is supposed to be with a new administration, or we're going to continue down the same self-destructive path that we've been on for the last 240 years. You've already made your choice. The votes are in. They're being counted. Nothing you can do about it now. But the only thing that I do hope you do on all sides of the political spectrum, left, right, and center, is do some serious soul searching. Because as of this moment, with everything that's at stake, the racism that this country continues to endure and endorse is only going to hurt us. The xenophobia that we continue to endorse is only going to hurt us. We are going to become that third world country that you're so anxious about becoming because of your own stupidity. So here's the deal. I'm wrapping this up. I'm going to keep watching the election results, and I'm going to pray for the best. All right? I suggest you do the same too.
You've been listening to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and not reflective of any business entity or anyone associated with this broadcast. If you have any comments or want more information on how to be a sponsor, log on to our website at markgunmedia.com or call us at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Thank you for listening.
Mark Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.